Vera at dalesdiaries.com, Tuesday, 2 a.m. Irene, for goodness sake, don't come. Just got in from a terrible row at Dale's TV. My researchers, Zizi, Tasman and Polly have been sacked. Apparently they didn't consult the producer, Benji, Hartley, Dixon, over your appointment. I've never heard language like it. He stormed round the studio like a toddler in a tantrum. Also discovered a problem with the budget. There isn't one. Do hope you check your email before laying out on the train fare. V.
Irene at thelimes.heathergreen.co.uk. Tuesday night. Dear Christopher, well, absolute mayhem here. But then, what else would I expect from anything that Vera tried to organise? Arrived at Great Shagthorne after a nightmare journey on the train. I use the inverted commas advisedly. Most of the trip was spent on buses, being ferried between the railway stations that were closed for renovations. If I entrained and disentrained once, I did it a dozen times. Needless to say, I was in a terrible state of anxiety by the time I reported for rehearsals 3 hours late, but that was as nothing compared to how I felt when I was greeted by the director, Benji Heartless Dixon, and informed that I had been sacked before I had begun. It transpires that Vera did email me in the middle of last night to tell me not to come, but honestly, who checks their email at 3 a.m? Certainly not I. Anyway, it's all been a storm in a teacup, and I soon got order restored. Benji's nose had been put out of joint because he felt he hadn't been consulted about my appointment, but as soon as he saw how presentable I was, and I showed him the poem I had written for inclusion in the first show, he immediately saw what a mistake he was making and hired me on the spot. I say hired. Apparently he is expecting us to give our services for free initially. I told him you would be ringing him to discuss this. At least I should be paid for my odes, surely. I am currently staying with Vera's daughter Karen and her veterinarian husband Singen, but I don't know how long that will last. Vera comes as part of that package, and we've already had words. If it becomes unendurable, I can always go and bunk up with her son Howard and his partner Anthony, who in any case are soon expecting their first baby, and might be grateful for an experienced mother to be on hand to show them which way is up. All my love, my little one, your loving mummy, Irene. Kiss, 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 and one for luck. Kiss. Welcome, dear viewer, a poem by Irene Spencer. Imagine, as you're sitting there upon your sofa or your chair, that we are not some remote stars who travel the world in chauffeured cars. No, think of us as your old friends who've just popped in to make amends for any hardship in your life. Whatever troubles, whatever strife you may have suffered, we are here to comfort you and give you cheer. My name is Irene, hers is Vera. And to us you couldn't be dearer or more treasured in our hearts as you watch us take our parts. Now just pretend that your TV is a two-way mirror and we see you clear as day. Is this not fun? The grey sky's clear, out comes the sun. So just remember, no more sorrow. We're here today and every morrow.
Vera at dalesdiaries.com. Wed, 3:30 a.m. Dearest Howard and Anthony, I really hate to have to make this request, but I don't know where else to turn. To put it bluntly, can Irene come and stay with you at Sheep Dipper's shed for the foreseeable future? Now, before you make the inevitable response, I can almost hear the groans. Let me just say that if you refuse, your only mother's life will become a living hell, and she may, in a moment of agony, take the only way out and end it. I don't want to over-dramatise. Goodness knows I've been accused of that often enough by Karen to have learnt my lesson. But Irene has been here for less than a day and has already managed to create chaos. Having been apprised by me in plenty of time that her services were no longer required by Dale's TV, she wilfully ignored my warning. As usual, I was trying to let her down lightly, and turned up at the studio, wearing full-length satin that looked like a nightgown, a beaded pashmina, a present from her son Christopher, so she said, a new hair rinse, lilac, and makeup her salon facial artiste had copied from a photo of Joan Collins. I ask you for a warm and informal morning chat show. To add insult to outrage, she'd come prepared with what she called an opening ode, which she insisted on reading. I thought the producer, Benji Hartley Dixon, was going to defenestrate there and then. Fortunately, he wears baggy corduroys, and I managed to catch him by the seat as he climbed on the windowsill. But it just shows poor Benji's desperation. Of course he had to give her the job. What else could he do? My dear little researchers Zizi, Tasmin and Polly have also been reinstated. Quite honestly, who else were they going to get to put up with such a ridiculous situation? Irene was wreathed in smiles of triumph, and to cap it all, seems to assume she can stay here for the duration. She's sleeping in Karen's turret, and I've already had to climb the wretched stairs with Horlicks, hemorrhoid cream and a hot water bottle, as Karen refuses to let her come down. I can't endure weeks of her blaming me and sulking. Karen, that is, not Irene, although come to think of it, the same could apply. Dearest darling Howie, and of course Anthony, please, please save me and the rest of your suffering family. Mumsy, kiss, 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 kiss.
Howie and Ants at sheepshag.com. Dear Irene, we wondered if you'd like to stay here while you're recording the Dale's diaries. Don't give putting us out a thought. We could do with another pair of hands, to say nothing of the rest of the body. Speaking for ourselves, we're finding this pregnancy exhausting. Between you and us, Mumsy's explained there are a few problems over at the Bothy. So let us know when you want your stuff collecting and we'll drive over in the yoghurt delivery van. Look forward to seeing you, Howard and Anthony.
Irene at thelimes.heathergreen.co.uk. Dear Howard and Anthony, thank you for your invitation to stay with you, but I'm afraid I must decline. I know you need me to help with the impending baby, but your sister Karen needs me to be here with her, as she's not getting on at all well with your mother at the moment, and I'm having to act as an emollient on troubled waters. Once I've got the situation here on an even keel, I will of course be delighted to come and stay with you to lend a hand. All fond wishes to you both. Irene, kiss. Dear Howard and Anthony, please ignore my email of an hour ago and come and collect me from your mother's as soon as possible. Naturally, Karen is very disappointed at my change of heart, but she will cope. If I stay here a moment longer, I fear for my continued working relationship with your mother, not to mention my life. She has started hurling objects at me now, and I am nursing a very nasty bruised foot as a result. Currently, we are not speaking, and are therefore having to communicate by handwritten notes. See you soon, I hope. All love, Reen. Vera, I've gone to stay with Howard and Anthony. We'll see you at the Dale's Diaries rehearsals in the morning, by which time I hope you will be feeling somewhat calmer. Irene. P.S. Have tried to glue your Ormolu clock back together again, but there appear to be a few pieces left over, which don't seem to fit anywhere.
Karen at greatshag.com. Howard, for Christ's sakes, keep the balmy old bat for as long as poss. I was about to brain her. Our dear mother had already had one go at it. As if having her around full-time wasn't enough. Sorry to lumber you, but after all, you do owe me one. What goes around, etc., etc. Karen.
Vera at dalesdiaries.com. Dearest Howard, so sorry about the confusion. Irene simply refused to leave, even after your generous invitation. Not satisfied with having me running up and down every 5 minutes to the turret, the final nail was her refusing to stay in it and stalking down, uninvited, to my kitchen. There am I, happily trying out an inspired recipe for banana chutney, enked, to include in my organoral TV show, when Irene appears like a poltergeist over my shoulder, and with her usual carelessness of other people's feelings, remarks that she doesn't think it will televise well, as it is the colour of vomit. I was so incensed I dropped the dratted banana skin, skidded on it, crashed into the Welsh dresser, dislodged my favourite antique Ormolu clock, which shot off the shelf and hit Irene on the foot before falling onto the quarry tile floor. I rue the day I had that laid, and smashing into 1,000,000 pieces. I'm so upset. That clock has been in the family since my day trip to Italy last summer. It'll never be of any use as a clock again. Of course, Irene made a tremendous fuss, hopping about and yelling as though she'd been attacked by an axe murderer. Singen rushed in to see what had happened. Sabrina, Nelson and little Millie were all in tears of fright, and Karen was threatening to walk out completely. Singen immediately applied a cold compress and gave Irene, at her insistence, a tetanus injection, something to do with the clock having come from Venice. Oh, it is a relief to have a man with a syringe on tap, but I needn't tell you too that. After that, even someone as pig-headed as Irene knew her welcome was outstayed, hence the frantic emails. Try and be patient and bear it for me. When I become a household name, I will make sure you and Anthony are thoroughly remunerated. You're suffering, Mumsy. Kiss, kiss. Oh, banana chutney. 2 old bananas, half-baked apple, 2 spring onions, 1 clove garlic, handful sultanas, dollop of tarragon vinegar. Put all ingredients except sultanas in blender, whiz for 30 secs, then mix in salts. Cool in fridge for an hour before use. Delicious with pork or lamb kebabs.
Irene at thelimes.haveagreen.co.uk. Dearest Christopher, these days my email address seems very inopposite, since I'm not in Havergreen at all, but touring round the whole of Shagthorne, both little and great. As I feared, Vera turned nasty almost before I'd unpacked my bags at her daughter's 16-room Georgian mansion house. You'd think Vera owned it rather than her delightful veterinarian son-in-law Singen, the way she bosses everybody around. She had me locked in a turret in the west wing, and even went so far as to take away the ladder which connects it to the rest of the house. In the end, I was forced to tie some sheets together to make my escape. I was dying for a tinkle, and there's no ensuite up there. But fortunately, Vera's granddaughter Sabrina was passing by below and put the ladder back in place. She's a very sweet little girl and would be so pretty if she wore a skirt and grew her hair. I won't worry you with the full details of what transpired when I dared to go into the kitchen after visiting the bathroom. Suffice it to say that I am now staying with Vera's gay son Howard and his partner Anthony at their farm, Sheepdipper's Shed, and am nursing a gashed and bruised foot as a consequence of Vera going ballistic, as Sabrina would say. Fortunately, St. is medically trained, albeit on animals, so I was well cared for. I'm rather anxious about rehearsals tomorrow, though. Needless to say, Vera and I aren't speaking off-camera, so I am forced to communicate to her via the written word. If you're free at the weekend, shall we go on another trip? I think I will be dying to get away by then to spend some time in civilised company. Let me know, my little cherub. Your loving mummy, Irene. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Hug, hug, hug.
Dale's Diaries at dalestv.co.uk. Howard, we go out live with our first Dale's Diaries show tomorrow morning. We've had so many teething problems, literally. Irene has ordered new dentures, which have failed to arrive. She will, needless to say, go to any lengths to grab attention. There hasn't been time to think about an audience. Can you and Anthony and Natasha come and be it? That reminds me, can you bring 8 gallons of sheep's yoghurt with you? Oh, must stop and find my notepad. Irene has just waltzed into the production office to display her costume. We're not speaking at the moment and are communicating by memo. Love, Mumsy. Kiss, kiss. Irene, that shade makes your face look like an old cigar. Besides, you will clash with me.
Vera, my costume choice has had producer approval. Please go through Mr. Benji Hartley Dixon if you want to make comments of a deleterious nature.
Benji, please make it clear to Irene she can't wear a trouser suit in luminescent puce. She seems to have forgotten I am the colourful character. Don't say I didn't warn you, V.
Vera, why are you passing handwritten notes to me? I thought it was just Irene you weren't speaking to. While we're on the subject, can you please bear in mind that Dale's TV is not at home to Mrs. Crosspatch or Madam Mardy, so will both of you please try and act your age. Best, Benji.
Dear Benji, I will act my age if you will act yours. In my opinion, senior citizens are due respect from 25-year-olds. Best, Vera.
Irene at thelimes.heathergreen.co.uk. Dearest Christopher, thank goodness you found me again after all these years. I really don't know what I'd have done under current circumstances without a son to turn to. I won't go into the catalogue of catastrophes we have been having here today, on this, the eve of our little programme going on air to the cable television viewing public of Little and Great Shagthorne. Suffice it to say that Vera has plumbed new depths of unpleasantness, hiding my dentures, sending away the minicab driver who was couriering an emergency new set I had ordered, pouring cold water on the Yves St. Laurent trouser suit you bought me in Prague, sniggering while I was rehearsing the reading of my poem. I could go on. But what would be the point? Jealous is jealous, no matter how many words one might try to wrap it up in. Perhaps if I had proved to be less of a natural in front of the cameras, or if I weren't quite so photogenic or so popular with the crew, none of which I can help after all said and done, perhaps then she would be happier. As it is, I just try to soldier on as cheerfully as I can, replying as politely as possible to her copious handwritten notes which she thrusts at me every few minutes, despite her having been told in no uncertain terms by Benji that he will not tolerate distension in his workforce. Anyway, enough of that. It's already the early hours of the morning, and I must try to get my beauty sleep for tomorrow's show. I've already tried to get to sleep, but I'm too excited, and my fertile brain is bulging with new ideas for future programmes. New odes are queuing up impatiently to slither down my writing arm and onto virgin pages, and as if that were not enough for a retired woman my age, my mind keeps circling round the subject of you, my dearest, most cherished firstborn, and how we came to be so cruelly parted and so rapturously rejoined. I have told you my part of the story, how, as a young, inexperienced girl, I was ravaged by a so-called friend of my parents and frightened by him into keeping quiet about it, how I was cruelly criticised by my mother over the ensuing months for putting on so much weight, and of how you arrived, out of the blue it seemed, while I was blacking the grates that fateful Monday morning. I recounted how you were taken from my side and hurriedly given to a member of my father's church who knew a man who knew a woman who knew a couple who couldn't have children, and of how, though I begged and pleaded on my bended knees, I could get no information as to where you'd gone and was told to forget you. What I long to know, in detail, is all about your early years. I feel that I have missed out on the joy of 1,000 small details of your life. Your first word, your first day at school, the drawings and paintings and models you would have carried home in your little ink-stained hand, whether you passed the 11+, did you join the Boy Scouts, and if so, what badges did you attain, etc., etc., ad nausea. When we go out together at the weekend, will you tell me more? And are there photographs you could bring to show me? Being reunited with you after 4 decades is such a miracle that sometimes when I'm writing to you or sitting next to you in one of your motor cars, I literally have to pinch myself to see if I am truly awake. Tomorrow is a huge day in the humble history of Irene Spencer, who fate has decreed to be plucked from obesity and hurled into the glare of televised stardom. but it is as nothing, believe me, compared to knowing that in a few short days I will be by your side again, mother and son, conjoined in an ecstatic symphony concerto of maternal bliss. Till Saturday, then, Godspeed these hours. As I write, I brush away soft tears of joy which trickle their trail o'er these happy cheeks. Your adoring, loving, doting Mummy Irene. Kiss, kiss, kiss.
Vera at dalesdiaries.com. Dearest Howard, can't sleep. Partly nerves, and partly the jumbo rollers with which Candy, our make-up girl, has set my hair. Every time I try to lie down, my head rebounds off the pillow. I had no idea those smiling presenters had to endure so much torture. Talking of which, this is by way of saying how grateful I am for your support at this traumatic time. I'm so glad you and Anthony and Natasha will be there tomorrow to cheer me on. Don't be late, dear, will you? The show goes out prompt at 10:30, and do wear something eye-catching. The camera will be on you, and only you, apparently. Your brother-in-law Singen is, of course, working. Little Sabrina will be at school, and your sister Karen says she is too depressed to come. How Singen puts up with her, I will never know. Of course, a lot of it is jealousy of me. She can't bear the fact that a woman of my years is still attractive and desirable, if the cameraman's winks are anything to go by, and is about to become loved by millions. Well, hundreds, anyway. It seems that Irene's perfect son, Christopher, won't be attending either. This is extremely odd, as she's been boring everyone rigid all week with stories of how he pampers and cherishes her, and constantly whipping out the one photo she has of him and poking it under people's noses. If I hadn't seen him myself once, and that in peculiar circumstances, I would be beginning to wonder whether he exists at all. I'm afraid she's riding for a fall. She gets so over-emotionally wound up and then terribly let down. I needn't remind you of the way she was dumped by that rotter Bill Snapes after all his empty promises. Even then she blamed me and said I'd deliberately come between them. She's as bad as Karen in the jealousy department. She's already attempted to drive a wedge between me and the producer, Benji, Hartley, Dixon, and she'd win Olympic gold if they included a competition for space invasion. As soon as that little red light goes on above the camera, she leaps in front of it, ogling and gurning. She waves her arms about so much, Benji asked her if she'd taken a course in sign language. She's been so offensive, I couldn't trust myself to speak to her, and have had to resort to more note-giving. Poor little Zizi, Tasmin and Polly have been run off their feet passing scraps of paper between us. They look close to nervous breakdown. Hardly surprising when you consider that with all the overtime unpaid, they are working for less than national minimum wage. And there was I under the misappropriation that jobs in the medium were so well remunerated. But then, of course, they are only children. Well, dear, must finish and try to get some shut-eye, albeit in an upright position. I'm sure I'll be fine. I am what is known in the business, so Zizi tells me, as a trooper. I just hope Irene can take the strain. But I suppose, as per, I'll be around to pick up the pieces. Till I see your smiling faces the other side of the camera. Bless you, Mumsy.
Vera, to you this humble card I send, to jog your mind that I'm your friend. Good luck this morn, and break a leg, and try to be civilised, please, I beg. For we're on show before the nation. Let's make it a cause for celebration. With all good wishes for the making of our first Dale's Diary, your co-presenter, Irene. P.S. Don't forget to step back and to your left after your intro to my poem, and don't fling out your arm. I'm just behind you. We don't want a repeat of rehearsals.
Irene, thank you for your apology. I will take the advice to break a leg in the spirit in which I'm sure it was intended, though frankly in those ridiculous high-heel boots you're wearing, I think it's more likely to be you. I'm glad you have reminded us that it is friendship that has brought us to this exalted position, particularly mine for you. Anyway, good luck, and do keep still. Remember what Benji said about wild gestures giving the viewers migraine. Yours, V.
Vera, you are standing between me and the camera. Please move. Irene.
Zizi, can you rush out front, dear, and tell my son Howard to put his Hackett's barber back on? That fluorescent green tank top is giving me a migraine. V. Tasmin, can you rush up to the box and have a word with Benji about the lighting? On my side of the couch there doesn't appear to be any. V.
Tasmin, can't you persuade Vera to tone down her makeup in the commercial break? That way Benji needn't keep her in the dark. Just a suggestion. Irene.
Ladies, for God's sake, stop sending me notes. Just concentrate on trying to do your job and let me do mine. Benji.
Polly, can you rush and get me an ice pack? I was bending down to check my mark for my camera position, and Irene poked me in the eye with her clipboard. V.
Vera, my sincere apologies. I swear it was an accident, so there is absolutely no need for retaliation.
Irene, so sorry my clipboard poked you up the bottom. Everyone in the audience laughed, so at least they've got a sense of humour. Vera.
Girls, girls, girls. That is absolutely enough. Stop hitting each other and start talking to each other. You'll make us a laughingstock, and may I remind you, the press are in. Benji.
The Shagthorn Gazette. Yesterday's TV. Reviews by Nigel Norris. 2 new stars were added to the cable firmament yesterday in a new magazine programme called The Dales Diaries. Dales TV, 10:30 a.m. Those local viewers who were wise and lucky enough to buy their sheep's yoghurt direct from my good friends Howard Small and Anthony Flowers at Sheep Dipper's Shed, Shooters Hill, Shale, Shap, near Great Shagthorn, fabulous wholesale, prices negotiable, personal callers welcome, might have recognised the distinctive profile of Howard's mother, Vera Small, joined here by her old chum Irene Spencer. From my privileged position in the studio audience, the 2 ladies were an absolute delight, with a mixture of old wives' tales, joke recipes, hilarious poetry and comic slapstick. Certainly this reviewer hasn't seen anything to match their side-splitting running gag with a clipboard since the good old days of Abbott and Costello. Star, 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 star. 5-star rating. A must-see.